and by this means the brain is cleared. Well, do you understand?" And Boaz never ceased from purifying our blood and clearing our brain, and woe unto us. We did not believe any more in the good angel that looked down upon us from above. We realized that it was only a fairy tale, an invented story by which we were fooled into going to Boaz Cheder, and we began to sigh and groan because of our sufferings under Boaz. And we also began to make plans, to talk and argue how to free ourselves from our galling slavery. In the melancholy moments between daylight and darkness, when the fiery red sun is about to bid farewell to the cold earth for the night, in these melancholy moments when the happy daylight is departing, and on its heels is treading silently the still night with its lonely secrets, in these melancholy moments when the shadows are climbing on the walls, growing broader and longer, in these melancholy moments between the afternoon and the evening prayers, when the teacher is at the synagogue and his wife is milking the goat, or washing the crockery, or making the borscht, then we youngsters came together at Cheder beside the stove. We sat on the floor, our legs curled up under us like innocent lambs. And there, in the evening darkness, we talked of our terrible Titus, our angel of death, Boaz. The bigger boys, who had been at Cheder some time, told us the most awful tales of Boaz. They swore by all the oaths they could think of that Boaz had flogged more than one boy to death, that he had already driven 3 women into their graves, and that he had buried his one and only son. We heard such wild tales that our hair stood on end. The older boys talked and the younger listened with all their senses on the alert. Black eyes gleamed in the darkness, young hearts palpitated, and we decided that Boaz had no soul. He was a man without a soul, and such a man is compared to an animal, to an evil spirit, that it is a righteous act to get rid of. Thousands of plans, foolish, childish plans, were formed in our childish brains. We hoped to rid ourselves of our angel of death, as we called Boaz. Foolish children, these foolish plans buried themselves deep in each little heart that cried out to the Lord to perform a miracle. We asked that either the book should be burnt, or the strap he whipped us with taken to the devil, or... No one wished to speak of the last alternative. They were afraid to bring it to their lips. An evil spirit worked in their hearts. The young fancies were enkindled, and the boys were carried away by golden dreams. They dreamed of freedom, of running downhill, of wading barefoot in the river, playing horses, jumping over the logs. They were good, sweet, foolish dreams that were not destined to be realized. There was heard a familiar cough, a familiar footfall, and our hearts were frozen, all our limbs were paralyzed, deadened. We sat down at the table and started our lessons with as much enthusiasm as if we were starting for the gallows. We were reading aloud, but still our lips muttered, "Father in heaven, will there never come an end to this tyrant, this Pharaoh, this Haman, this Gog-Magog? Or will there ever come a time when we shall be rid of this hard, hopeless, dark tyranny? No, never, never." That is the conclusion we arrived at, poor, innocent, foolish children. "Children, do you want to hear of a good plan that will rid us of our Gog-Magog?" That was what one of the boys asked us on one of those melancholy moments already described. His name was Velvel Lieb Arius. He was a young heathen. When he was speaking, his eyes gleamed in the darkness like those of a wolf, and the whole school of boys crowded around Velvel. to hear the plan by which we might get rid of our Gog-Magog. Velvel began his explanation by giving us a lecture. How impossible it was to stand Boaz any longer, how the Ashmedai was bathing in our blood, how he regarded us as dogs, worse than dogs, because when a dog is beaten with a stick it may at any rate howl, and we might not do that either, and so on and so on. After this Velvel said to us, "Listen, children, to what I will ask you. I am going to ask you something." "Ask it," we all cried in one voice. "What is the law in a case where, for example, one of us suddenly becomes ill?" "It is not good," we replied. "No, I don't mean that. I mean something else. I mean, if one of us is ill, does he go to Cheder or does he stay home?" "Of course he stays home," we all answered together. "Well, what is the law if two of us get ill?" "Two remain home." "Well, and if three get ill?" Velvel went on asking us and we went on answering him. "Three stay at home." "What would happen if, for example, we all took ill?" "We should all stay home." "Then let a sickness come upon us all," he cried joyfully. We replied angrily, "The Lord forbid! Are you mad, or have you lost your reason?" "I am not mad, and I have not lost my reason. Only you are fools, yes." "Do I mean that we are to be really ill? I mean that we are to pretend to be ill, so that we shall not have to go to Cheder. Do you understand me now?" When Velvel had explained his plan to us, we began to understand it and to like it, and we began to ask ourselves what sort of an illness we should suffer from. One suggested toothache, another headache, a third stomachache, a fourth worms, but we decided it was not going to be toothache, nor headache, nor stomachache, nor worms. What then? We must all together complain of pains in our feet, because the doctor could decide whether we really suffered from any of the other illnesses or not. But if we told him we had pains in our feet and were unable to move them, he could do nothing. Remember, children, you are not to get out of bed tomorrow morning, and so that we all may be certain that not one of us will come to Cheder tomorrow, let us promise one another, take an oath." So said our comrade Velvel, and we gave each other our promise and took an oath that we would not be at Cheder next morning. We went home from Cheder that evening lively, joyful and singing. We felt like giants who knew how to overcome the enemy and win the battle. End of chapter 14.